Today we're going to talk to you about bringing ISP interest to light, data-driven and consumer-focused. My name is Sarah Rose. I'm a Senior GIS Analyst with the City of Loveland Water and Power, and I'm helping out with the community broadband deployment. I've been doing GIS for about 20 years, primarily in the utility sector, and I've been an FME user and dabbler for about 6 years.
Hi, I'm Paige Richardson. I'm a utility business analyst here at Loveland Water and Power, and my primary background is GIS and a recent FME newbie.
Today, we want to talk about how the foundation of any utility is location. Knowing the location of who wants community broadband is driving the next round of construction, marketing, and business decisions. So to give a little bit of history, Loveland Pulse broke ground in November of 2019 and is currently in year 3 of 4 of their build-out. So while the original design still holds true for the city limits in the existing electric service area, Loveland has seen a 1.39% increase in growth and a 23% population increase since 2010. These increases weren't necessarily accounted for in the original design, but Pulse does need to know where this growth is happening so that they can better make decisions for forecasting, budgeting, and design needs.
As Sarah mentioned, Loveland Pulse is a municipal broadband startup. It needed a way to start building a customer interest list. And the marketing team specifically needed to know who wanted which services, internet, TV, or phone, and where they were located, either within the Pulse service area or outside the service territory, and where they were within that. And where was the biggest question? And how do we accurately capture location? So to start, we built a Survey 123 form using Esri Survey 123 software, and built out a form to capture this information that the public could submit. It included some generic information such as your contact info, name, phone number, email, as well as the location or service address of where you would want this service, and what packages you may want to order, the internet, phone, or TV, and also how many people would be using these services at that location.
Right. And so when Loveland Pulse Marketing first got started, they had 2 challenges. The first challenge was, what was the best method for processing the data near real time? Since Survey 123 results are being submitted live, the marketing team wanted to be responsive to their potential customer base and be able to respond quickly. The second challenge was location. So that using Survey 123 and other means, there were a few different options for how best to capture the location information. For instance, do we use the inherent GeoPoint functionality within Survey 123? This works great because it allows you to capture the location information of where a mobile device user is. But if that mobile device user is on vacation or not at their home address, you're capturing the wrong location. Do we use their current location versus their service location? If they're on a computer at their house, again, this works great because the IP address goes back to their house. But if they're using an IP address in an area where there's either poor coverage or not at their house, it's capturing their current location. Again, this is not helpful information. A third option was to allow the survey responsees to submit their addresses manually. This was ideal because everybody knows their own address, but this means that everybody has a subjective or potentially different way of entering an address. There's no standardization, and it's hard to enforce that validation. A last option was to do an address lookup or a list where they would pick up where the address has already been validated. But that's a lot of data being loaded and potentially served up over on mobile devices, and this proved to be non-performant for our users. So again, the crowdsourced location data that Survey 123 allows us to capture is great, but it can be a pain to process. We found out quickly that addresses are subjective and pretty squishy. But since the location data is very key to what we're trying to solve for the marketing needs, we needed a way to enrich the survey submissions with business-specific, location-based attributes for consumption by marketing. So we first started going with our current location using the GeoPoint with Survey 123, and as we quickly found out, Loveland has areas of poor Wi-Fi connectivity and poor cellular connectivity. We also have areas that were served by microwave towers and not necessarily great internet coverage, and this aggregated over 3,000 points at one repeater. So our slide shows that we literally had over 300 or 3,000 responses at one XY location. This is not correct and not helpful. So this led us into our next slide.
So to circumvent this, we decided to ditch the GeoPoint and went with manual entry, user-defined addresses, along with the help of FME Desktop and FME Server to scrub geocode and then insert into our production database and other systems. And ultimately, we're able to accurately locate the interest and these survey submissions and allow for an enriched location attributes on that data, and then able to supply that to our marketing team.
And so here's a snapshot of the workbench that as it stands today. So again, we are ingesting in the survey points, and because we only want the latest and greatest survey results, we're using date time stampers and date time calculators and some filters to peel off just that data that we want.
Yep, and then once we get those, then that set of survey submissions we want to process, we send it on to the address handling. So that's where we send it through geocoding. For geocoding, we're using our own City of Loveland curated locating service, which proved to be a lot more accurate than the Esri's provided World Geocoder service. And also, then we didn't have to pay for credits. And then we're sending that through, and once it gets geocoded, then the shape attribute information is updated, and so now it has an accurate location, and hopefully within the City of Loveland, and then passed on to enrich with some spatial information and more business-specific information relevant to our marketing team, and then on to our production database, as well as in posting to our CRM, which is our customer relationship management system. Sorry, I'm not a marketing expert, but so we're posting out to our CRM and posting it as a lead, so just making that data available even more quickly in the other systems.
And one thing you'll notice about our workbenches, we've got a few different Python callers in here. So Paige likes to read the matrix and speaks natively in Python. So using the FME solution was great for her to be able to use these existing scripts or modular scripts and embed it into the FME workflow.
Yep, and that's just a great tool with FME, is just its own inherent modularization. So we're able to just use it, take out some of that code that we have running and testing, and then just plop it into one of these Python colors. So it was just our choice. You could definitely use the HTTP color, I believe it is, for that post to the CRM.
And so the results. The best result is that we've got clean data. We've got clean data. This has eliminated thousands of stacked points. We no longer are dependent on a repeater in a canyon. We're also building a customer account information in our CRM system. And this is validating or providing validated service location addresses for the marketing team. And it's giving the marketing team an active list of new prospective customers, and also highlighting areas for the marketing team to do a focused, renewed marketing campaign. And additionally, it's also providing insights into new funding opportunities with the infrastructure bill and other grant fundings available. We've had to shift, and refocus where we're going, again, needing that location information, and that's why it's so important.
All right, so as the FME newbie, I definitely have some tips and tricks for any other FME newbies out there. First one is scrub your inputs. Just anticipate from the start you're going to receive bad data. No matter how many instructions you can put on the survey or input restrictions, you're still it's crowdsourced data, you're still going to get that randomness. So I would suggest that you anticipate bad data based on the data type. In our case, address information. Just anticipate they're going to put the city, state, zip code, unit number, all in one line. And so having that in your then architecture of your workbench, you're able to get up and started more quickly and able to have more scrubbed information. You're not really dealing with the data nuances and kind of keep going back and forth and pinging and looking at the data. Just anticipate it from the start, put it in that workbench or process from the get-go, and also try to just brainstorm other opportunities for scrubbing that. And then also just revisit and refine. As as Pulse grows and matures as a broadband utility, the business needs are changing, and we're also changing as well. Our knowledge is growing, and as we continually attend the FME webinars and are looking at documentation online, we're just learning all these other new opportunities and functionality that we can to enhance the overall process. So originally we ran this manually once per week, but after standing up FME server after a couple months, we're able to implement this as an automation. So just one example of, we have this new tech in place. All right, so now let's revisit existing workbenches and implement it. That way you're not having this one legacy workbench out there and after 3 years then having to completely revamp with everything else that you've learned. Just making piecemeal enhancements and additions has been very helpful. And then also just one thing that we learned that was amazing was the retry after failure. Definitely the subtle things, but it's made a huge difference when you're having to ping services that aren't on your network. You get 503 errors, sometimes 403 errors. So just having the retry, then we were noticing that we were sometimes would ping our hosted service, and we wouldn't be able to retrieve the data real time. So just allowing then for the retry, a couple of seconds later, then it is able to hit that server and retrieve the latest data. So just small things like that make a huge difference. So just continually revisit, refine, and test and try.
Yep, small steps. So, and just because we've got the bench today, how we want it doesn't mean this is how we're going to keep it forever. So hence our future enhancements.
So some things that we have learned that we're very excited to implement but have not yet is webhooks to achieve that real-time processing. Survey123 has the capability to trigger a webhook upon survey submission, and with FME Server, we're able to stand up a webhook endpoint. So we look forward to being able to implement that, where when someone submits, then it automatically triggers the workbench to fire off and process. And that way we can eliminate that first timestamp chunk in our workbench and just send it right onto Geocoder. And that'll allow us to process and just get it to marketing even faster. And also revisiting the client-side address validation. As we mentioned, slightly touched on, we had attempted to use an external selects, I believe it's called, with the Survey123, and to be able to do more of a select from, so that way people aren't actually entering it in. And we have seen some new technology out there since we have tried it, and are look forward to possibly testing that and implementing on our side.
Exactly. And then also marketing's needs have changed. So some other next steps are doing some better visualizations and some new analyses. We are now using some heat maps and some time series maps to get more insights out of the data. We're using cluster analysis to figure out where people are actually signing up for service. And then also trying to distill the information between where the interest is and where the service signups are happening. So we look forward to next steps with those analyses. So we have 2 links here as our resources. The first one is the lovelandpulse.com. So if you're in the Loveland, Colorado area and are interested in community broadband, we've got a website for you to check out. Also, it's a shameless plug. Yep. Also a source for a lot of our information. And then also a link for the Survey123 webinar that kind of kicked off this whole workflow a few years ago. So again, learning, moving, grooving, and look forward to the future. And we thank you for attending our presentation. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Thanks.
Thanks, Paige.